This is Jazz and its toll on segregation. The origins of jazz are complicated, some suggesting the uniquely American musical art form originated sometime before the Civil War. Regardless of the time period, historians agree that jazz originated in the communities of New Orleans, Louisiana. Although jazz is a microcosm of American culture, including racism and segregation, it proves to be uniquely important to the beginning of solving some of America's struggles with issues of race. Segregation was a huge social issue during the 1920s, and jazz was a type of escape from everything that was going on in the world. Most jazz clubs invited everyone to enjoy their music, no matter their race, and this helped, even by just a little, to help bring segregation to an end. Jazz was a huge part of Chicago's history. Whether it was the clubs or the people, jazz has always been in Chicago since the early 1900s. One of the most famous jazz clubs, called the Cotton Club, was created in Chicago. Many famous jazz musicians, including Muddy Waters, Louis Armstrong, and Miles Davis, have played in Chicago multiple times in their career. The introduction of prohibition in the 1920s brings jazz into gangster-run nightclubs, the venues that serve alcohol and hire black musicians. These speakeasies allow whites and blacks to mingle socially for the first time. Teddy Wilson and Lionel Hampton were making not just musical but also social and cultural history by playing with Benny Goodman, the enormously popular white bandleader and clarinetist known as the King of Swing. Goodman's racial mix worked superbly, and its success struck a significant blow against racism. Even though jazz has helped stop segregation, it has also created some problems for the African American community. Many of today's African American musicians are faced with similar social circumstances as those of past jazz musicians, and as a result, the importance of the African American culture is still being ignored. The recording industry has played a major role in the commercialization of jazz music, which has led to uniformity. Jazz music would have not been widely distributed to the general public without the recording industry, and it provided a perfect opportunity for making the music more marketable. As a result, blacks were socially affected, and according to Means, they had limited opportunities to showcase their originality and were forced to create music that only appealed to whites. African American jazz was played more frequently on urban radio stations than on suburban counterparts. Young people of the 1920s were influenced by jazz to rebel against the traditional culture of the previous generations, a rebellion that went hand in hand with fads, such as bold fashion statements of the flappers and new radio concerts. Dances such as the Charleston, developed by African Americans, instantly became popular among different demographics, including young white people. And with the introduction of large-scale radio broadcasts in 1922, Americans were able to experience different styles of music without physically visiting a jazz club. Through its broadcasts and concerts, the radio provided Americans with a new trendy avenue for exploring unfamiliar culture experiences from the comfort of their living rooms. The most popular type of radio show was the Powder Poem, an amateur concert and big band jazz performance broadcasted from New York and Chicago. Louis Armstrong wrote about one of his most inspiring moments in a 1941 letter to a jazz critic. I was playing a concert date in a Miami auditorium. I walked on stage, and there I saw something I'd never seen. I saw thousands of people colored in white on the main floor, not segregated in one row of whites and another row of Negroes, just all together naturally. I thought I was in the wrong state. When you see something like this, you know you're going forward.
Miss Holliday, would you care to tell us about some of the record sessions you were in? Now, that one back there, for instance, that was made here in New York, I suppose.
Yes, it was. Well, the first record I ever made, it was with Benny Goodman.
Were you scared?
But she got a break when she was, when Barney Josephson, who owned Cafe Society, had her come and sing there.
He said to me, "What kind of club are you going to open?" I said, "Well, I'm going to open an interracial nightclub where all people are welcome. All will be greeted as they should be."
This is Barney Josephson recounting a conversation he had with a music producer.
My thesis does not use the theme communication, but my topic does. My topic is about how jazz, in a way, helped bring whites and blacks together. The theme communication is used in my project because it's talking about how jazz music communicated with both whites and blacks, and for one of the first times brought them together. When the people listened to jazz music, they had an unspoken understanding that they did not care about the race, they just wanted to listen to the music together. So, once a day, whites and blacks were seen as equal, and they communicated with each other and listened to each other. Even though jazz has had some negative effects on the black community, there are also many positive outcomes. Jazz has brought the white and black community together little by little to appreciate the beautiful music we call jazz. To this day, jazz is still helping both communities become equal with one another. Segregation is still happening in the world today, but we are finally thinking of each other as equals, and that is an effect of jazz and its toll on segregation.